Alright, as we enter our last day of multiplying decimals, we're looking at how does everything that we've done now come together in our most efficient strategy. So if you think about what did we do to multiply 2 4/10 times 5/10, we started with shading when we were just multiplying tenths by tenths. We could also approach this using fractions and mixed numbers. Or if you remember, we can mathematically move our decimal point out of the way. So here, 2 4/10, we could multiply by 10 to the first power. 5/10 I could multiply by 10 to the first power, which in the end would give us the same thing as if we were multiplying 24 times 5. So the 5 times 4 would be 20. 5 times 20 is 100 plus 2 would give us 120. Here's our decimal point. Since we had a total of 1/10 or 10 to the first and 10 to the first, giving us 10 to the second, I can divide by 10 to the second, which means I move my decimal point back 2 spots, which is going to give me 1 20/100 or 1 2/10. Hopefully as you started to go through this, you start to notice different types of patterns, and that's what we're going to kind of explore today. And you want to look at, can we make any shortcuts instead of having to always write out that we're multiplying by these powers of 10. So for example, if we're given a problem like these, we want to determine where does the missing decimal go. So here, if I have 7 times 1 4/10, one thing that you might start to notice is we could just count our decimal places. So here we know we'd have to do 10 to the first. 7 doesn't change, so we know here I'm going to move my decimal point back 1 spot, which would actually just make this 9 8/10. Here we'd have 10 to the third. Here we'd have 10 to the second for a total of 10 to the fifth. So I'm going to move it back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or, in other words, our final decimal point would go in between the 4 and the 2. So why don't you pause the video and try the last one on your own. So here we have 7 89/100, 3 4/10. So this would be 10 to the second. This would be 10 to the first for a total of 10 to the third. So our decimal point is going to go in between the 6 and the 8. So now I want you to think about, if you were to explain to someone else how to multiply decimals, what would you tell them? So you might be able to tell them about the fact that you could approach it using fractions. But hopefully as we've gone through this, you start to notice that by using the power of tens, we can actually just start to count the decimal points. Because remember that exponent related to place values. So the other way we can look at it is there's 3 here and 2 here for a total of 5 that need to be behind the decimal point. Here there were 2 and 1 for a total of 3 that needed to be behind the decimal point. So that's just another way to look at decimal multiplication, which is more typically what has been taught. Like when I was in school, that's how I was taught, is just to count the number of decimals. But what's actually happening is we're multiplying by powers of 10 and moving the decimal point out of the way and then bringing it back through division.